Welcome to another live edition of Blacklisted Radio. Good to be with you. My name is Doug Owen. It's the 6th day of December 2015, and you can join me online at blacklistedradio.com. We do this show live Sunday evenings, 9 p.m. Central Standard Time. That's 8 p.m. on the, it would be 10 p.m. It doesn't really matter, but it would be 10 p.m. Eastern. And on the Pacific, we would be there about 7 p.m. right there for your dinner time listening enjoyment. Thanks a lot. I'm your host, as I said, Doug Owen. You can find my website, blacklistedradio.com. We have the interactive chat room and all of the amenities that you need free on the house, as well as exclusive content and lots of cool stuff to help you be part of the show. It's interactive. We love to talk to you. You can text me, 512-222-3067. You can also leave us voicemails at that line. You can also call into the show during the live duration. 800-313-9443 is the toll-free number to join us. Tonight, we turn to the San Bernardino terrorist event. And we can call that a terrorist event now because the president, just moments before I got on to this broadcast, before I hopped into the studio, made an unprecedented speech, the third one in his Oval Office, to the American people. And wasn't a big shocker, actually, I have to say. Pretty well read. I mean, not a lot to be critical of other than the obvious solutions to what we saw happen in San Bernardino. We talked about it briefly on the last podcast. A lot more has come to light since that point, but the president calling on Congress to renew war powers for the president, for the executive, to wage war anywhere in the world where ISIS may be, and that is including bringing thousands of ground troops into Iraq to fight ISIS in the Levant and Daesh and other branches of ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Al-Nusra Front, or anybody else the government deems to be assassination worthy inside of Syria. One of the things he did note was that it was very advantageous that the French and now the UK with Cameron are joining alongside the United States to fight ISIS in Iraq, to go after the Leviathan. He made mention of some of the solutions, which I don't get. It doesn't make a lot of sense to me. They want to prohibit people on the no-fly list from being able to buy firearms. And to me, it seems like kind of a no-brainer. The government can basically turn you down for almost any reason for buying a firearm. If you do that at a retailer, you have to go through a background check. I've done this process. It took me, I think it was 4 or 5 days. Doug Owen, a pretty popular name. At least that's what they attributed my extra wait time to when I bought a Smith & Wesson M&P 22. Looks like an AR-15. It's a somewhat militarized looking weapon for plinking. It's a 22. It's actually great. I really am very happy with it, but bought it from a sporting goods store and had to go through the lengthy process. But nonetheless, putting people on this list, I don't know how anybody could really oppose that, and that's why they kind of put this up on the tee for this softball move, calling on Congress to ban militarized weapons. And we'll see what maybe the potential for a renewed assault weapons ban may include. Probably going after people with AR-15s, making it much harder to buy ammunition, but not using his executive authority, which another shocker to me that the president is actually going to Congress on anything, but basically kind of shaming Congress into getting on board with the president's agenda. Of course, when we look at the San Bernardino terror plot, he did mention that it was terror. I know that becomes a point of contention. Is it workplace violence? Is it Muslim extremism? Is it terrorism? People get very, very touchy when it comes to the definitions. Is this a terrorist attack? Can we call this radical Islam? Should we be afraid of Islam? And he spent quite a bit of time trying to disassemble those different groups, and basically said that we should not look at the religion of Islam as the enemy or the culprit behind this attack, but more of a perverted, radicalized version of Muslim extremism or an extreme Islamist view. Doesn't really, to me, it doesn't really matter that much. I've often said that things that are motivators, they're kind of a non sequitur with me. It's like hate crimes. It doesn't matter why you murdered a person. If you wanted their material possessions, you wanted to, take their children, you wanted to, for a variety of reasons, kill this person. It really doesn't matter if it was because of their skin color to me, because I think that justice is blind and motivations are, it really shouldn't matter what your motivation is. The result should be what is judged. If you murder somebody because you don't like them, is no less or more of a crime than if you did it because of some other nonsensical, silly prejudice or other, just silly, for lack of a better term, reason for doing whatever it is that you did, whether you murdered your neighbor because you wanted their possessions. So when it comes to defining what it is, that's for people in the legal realm. Lawyers care about those terms because they do bring different legal frameworks into purview when you're prosecuting a terrorist. So pretty interesting stuff that's come out so far. Some of the anomalies, some of the other things that I think are mention worthy. Fox 11 Los Angeles put out a tweet. Reports of an active shooter in San Bernardino. Police looking for 3 white males dressed in military gear. At least 20 injured. Just one of several reports of white men in fatigues. Now, when they got into the black SUV, when you get into the black Suburban, I mean, that right there just raises lots of red flags for me, because the people that usually buy and can afford black Suburbans, black Tahoes, are people in government, police officers. I mean, if you look at most of the people that drive those type of vehicles, especially today with a price tag of upwards of $50,000, you just don't see as many as you used to. And all black Suburban seems like something I see. This is a total generalization, but this is kind of the thought process. I look at most Middle Eastern people. I see them in Toyotas. I see them in Pathfinders, Nissans. I see them in a lot of Corollas, a lot of Honda Accords. Big black SUV just seemed odd. The fact that you have these reports, and I thought very, very odd, I'm sure most of you do as well, is the fact that the family lawyer, the Farouk family lawyer, suggested that the San Bernardino attack was faked along with Sandy Hook. So usually when you have these terrorists, they have some kind of lawyer handler, somebody that is designated by the state. I know John Whitehead at the Rutherford Institute. He not to say that he's a government shill or anything, but he represented McVeigh. He represented several other terrorists. So you usually have people that are just on retainer for these type of large show trials. But anyway, the lawyer himself looks like an actor. Very pretty, has a nice jawbone, very nice cheekbones. He looks like an actor. I mean, that is just my first impression of watching him talk. And I don't have the audio available, but you can find it all over the place. Just Google Farouk family lawyer, and you're going to find this guy talking about Sandy hoax, which I thought was very, very interesting. I mean, you know, a legal representative saying this is not really happening, it's all just a hoax. I don't know how that would stand up or where this will fall if it actually does go to trial, but that would be a big, big sidebar in the whole narrative. But nonetheless, just one of many other strange anomalies. The U.S. government is being very careful not to mention the fact that after Farouk left Pakistan 25 years ago, he became a right-wing hardliner while he was in Saudi Arabia, sympathizing with other extremist Salafists. And, I mean, once again, a terror attack happening on U.S. soil, very substantial links to Saudi Arabia being discounted, and very little mention of it in the mainstream media, talking about, you know, you would think there would be some analysis on why we have so many terrorists and extremists that just happen to come from Saudi Arabia. So, for obvious reasons, that would not be a talking point during the presidential address. It was not. But it's mention worthy here, and that's why I wanted to bring it up. Not to mention the fact that, and I don't know if I even mentioned this on the last podcast, but there were several witnesses saying that the reason that they were not freaked out about this shooting was because a year ago they started doing active shooter drills at the building where this Christmas party that was attacked took place. Of course, this feeds back into, I think, this narrative that we should, I wouldn't call it the attack on Christmas, but we already see that. I mean, and I'm not talking about Starbucks taking Christmas decorations off of their cups, which those kind of outrages come and go. I'm so outraged. I'm not going to buy coffee from Starbucks. Okay, great. You know, I've equated fast food selection, or said on several occasions, fast food selection is not activism. Same thing with Chick-fil-A. I guess it was just last year. Some of the comments by the owner, his religious beliefs about morality and gay and lesbian couples and their right to get married stirred quite a frenzy. But anyway, I digress. But you know, it's worth noting that these drills had been happening over and over again. So, what to make of the story? What to make of the situation? I think that if this is part of the U.S. government's strategy of tension, trying to push forward not only a domestic culling of the gun culture that is alive and well, and I'm not one of these people that's a pinko commie liberal, but there is a huge violent gun culture in this country. I'm always trying to shield my son from all of the war video game commercials and things that are on television. That's why we don't do a whole lot of television, because there is so much violence. And it's not that I'm scared of him seeing violence, and this is a very violent world that we live in, but a 2-year-old doesn't need to be simulating gladiatorial killings, and it's just not something you should have to worry about quite yet. The television can bring on quite a lot of emotional responses. I joked not too long ago about how watching Joe Dirt and the scene where the alligator grabs Joe Dirt, freaked my son out. He couldn't believe it. He was, truly petrified that Joe Dirt was getting eaten by an alligator. But nonetheless, one of the things that I thought was a real takeaway is that the president, during his speech, said that we should not succumb to fear, that liberty, that liberty counters fear. I paraphrase, and that we should not be paralyzed by it. But if you look at the true reality of terror in the United States of America, I mean, let's be quite honest. The statistics prove you're more likely to be killed by a police officer, 8 times more likely. When it comes to being killed in your vehicle, upwards of 40,000 people die on U.S. highways in car crashes every year. Cancer, cardiac arrest, dying from drug overdoses or misdiagnosis. All of those things play a much more significant role in your life, or not really play a role in your life, but you're much more likely to have your life ended by one of those events rather than a Muslim extremist or some right-wing terrorist. So those are terms that the government loves to use. But all of this does distract away from the root cause of why we have the problems we have today with ISIS, and that is that U.S. allies are supporting and financing ISIS. He made mention, Barack Obama that is, of the thousands of airstrikes debilitating Al-Qaeda and ISIS, which you would think with thousands of bombs and spending billions upon billions of dollars in Iraq, not to mention the recent IG's look at the phenomenal homes that commanders in Afghanistan were wasting U.S. taxpayer money on. I mean, just all of the effort, the money that the military-industrial complex contractors are loving. We actually have a piece on the website today highlighting how, hey, stocks are good when there's violence, and these terrorist acts in the U.S. are good for business. Raytheon, Lockheed Martin, all of these Boeing, all of these big industrial militarized weapon providers are reaping benefits from IS. So it only behooves them. Now, the U.S. media has been quick to try to cover up this very well put together visual, graphical evidence that ISIS is being supported and selling oil to Turkey. Actually, a Turkish MP, and it's easy to brush off Russia, right? Because they are the enemy now, and they are the bad guys, and all of that. So it's very easy for the U.S. media and people in general to brush off things that Vladimir Putin are saying. But we actually have an MP, a Turkish MP, who says now he has evidence that Erdogan's son-in-law is involved in the illegal crude trade. So that's just one of the many things that we're missing from this whole equation and this whole plan to eliminate ISIS by Barack Obama. We'll take a quick break. If you heard the speech and have comments on anything, you can bring it up. It's Blacklisted Radio. And welcome back. It's Blacklisted Radio. You can be part of it. 800-313-9443 or tweet at me. My handle is BLN Radio. Jim in Ohio, you're on Blacklisted Radio. Welcome.
Did I hear you saying something about this whole location in San Bernardino that they've been doing some sort of drills?
Yeah. There's a couple of reports from CNN. One of the witnesses said that the reason that they had not been so alarmed by this gunfire and the call for an active shooter was because they had been doing lots of active shooter drills in the last year.
There have been lots of active shooter drills at this
the building, right?
Developmentally disabled people,
right? Yeah.
Where are you getting this information?
Let's see. I got it in my news feed here. Here we go. She thought it was a drill. I've got it on blacklistednews.com. This is from Newsday.
Just like one of those sort of Alex Jones InfoWars type websites?
No, Newsday is pretty legitimate. Let's see. Also, we also have Yahoo News from KABC Los Angeles that active shooter drills are being held in Rancho Cucamonga. So this is part of the San Bernardino County.
Tell me about these active shooter drills.
All right.
Rancho Cucamonga.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, I've got a video here. We could actually play some audio, but I don't know if I can loop it back through. Law enforcement agencies in San Bernardino County work together for drills simulating active...
Everyone wants to know whether...
Oh, sorry about that. Active shooter drills inside a theater, and it goes on.
Who is reporting this? Obviously, you're getting this...
This is Yahoo News. It's from Vanguard. So this is KABC. It's the Los Angeles ABC affiliate there. This is just one of several, actually. So I mean, it's at best, sir, it's anecdotal evidence. It's just one of the. This is an opinion from one of the people interviewed. So
it's BS. This idea that the drill what you're trying to imply is that
I'm not implying anything, sir. I'm just reporting mainstream media account of why the people, and the quote is, she said she thought it was a drill. Starting last year, center staff began completing active shooter drills. And it's not that much of a stretch. I mean, why wouldn't they be doing active shooter drills? They do it in schools all across this nation, businesses, government buildings do active shooter drills all of the time. So it's not that shocking that they would be doing a drill. It doesn't necessarily mean that this is a false flag. It's just one of many anomalies, like the initial reports of 3 white men in fatigues. Now, does that mean anything? Maybe, maybe not. It's an interesting anomaly, and I thought it was mention-worthy.
You think it's possible that what happened here in San Bernardino was really just
Sir, I'm just reporting a mainstream media article. I don't know why you feel so offended by it.
I'm asking you, do you think it's possible?
It does not matter what I think, sir. I am only reporting. This isn't an editorial. This is an opinion hour. This is a modeled report from Newsday, which is a real mainstream media news source. And I thank you for your call. You know, and you're going to have to prove whatever it is that you believe happened to yourself. Quite honestly, the reaction, the put forward by Hillary Clinton, by Barack Obama, the concerted push for more gun control in this country is what they're using this event for. It almost doesn't even matter as to how this event arose. I know a lot of you out there probably will follow the soap opera novella that is this media circus. I don't know if you saw the media in the terrorists, would-be terrorists, alleged terrorists, whatever they are, in their home, but it was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous. It was really the media just filming other frothing at the mouth media people and cameramen inside of this small apartment. And I was watching this and I thought, this is how surreal it's become. More on the other side. All right, welcome back. It's Blacklisted Radio. I don't know why people think I have to make up reports. I absolutely do not. And I'm actually not that attached to any one possible answer to many of the questions that I raise here on this program. It was actually CNN that had quoted a witness who said that his daughter, this is third-hand information, a witness told CNN his daughter was evacuated from the building. She said she thought it was a drill. He said, starting last year, the staff began completing active shooter drills. And that's not necessarily all that abnormal in the state of fear, in the current climate of hysteria that we live under. Active shooter drills are going on across the nation. Just Google active shooter drills. It would be more astounding if they were not doing active shooter drills. That doesn't mean anything necessarily other than active shooter drills do the exact opposite of what you would think that they are intended to do, and that is to prepare you for an active shooter. Actually made these people kind of dismissive of the situation that they were currently in because they had seen this over and over again. It's like if you were at a building and every week somebody did a fire drill. After a while, you just don't think that bell necessarily means that there's truly a real fire. It's very easy to dismiss. So I think that was the grander point that I was trying to get to. It's just like keeping people from buying weapons off of the no-fly list, or people on the no-fly list not buying weapons. These people were not on the no-fly list. These people were vetted by the U.S. government. These people had immigrated legally. They had went through probably a better vetting process than most of the people that the U.S. is arming in Syria. And one of many questions that looms is, how are all of these nice people from ISIS ending up with U.S.-made Ukrainian weapons? It's a humdinger, huh? I don't know. Let me speculate. Wonder how all these guys from ISIS are ending up with Ukrainian weapons. I could sit here and tell you the obvious, and that is that the the Ukrainians are shipping weapons via a conduit provided to them by the CIA into Syria. That would stand to reason. It's the most plausible and it's the most probable reason, but there's not going to be an inquiry. There will be no Attorney General's inquiry into any of those reports. It's pretty much known. It's, I thought this video that we saw with ISIS fighters fighting the alleged Syrian government, and they are all using U.S.-made weapons. So, that dichotomy right there should kind of shine through these faux solutions, these pre-planned solutions for gun control that have almost nothing to do with the situation. Why is Hillary Clinton? Why is Barack Obama? Why are everybody in concert prior to this event calling for these exact same measures? When you have a lot of people that are all saying the same thing, it seems scripted. It seems like they've gotten together and they have an idea and they want to push that through. Otherwise, you wouldn't have this concerted effort to push forward. Why these things matter? I think because we're seeing an era where people are buying into the propaganda and allowing themselves to succumb to constant media overdose, and finally kind of just allowing the government to do whatever it says that it needs to do to protect us and keep us safe from this nightmare that the U.S. has created in so many different ways. It's not debatable where ISIS came from. The only thing that a lot of people don't want to accept is the active role of U.S. allies, Saudi Arabia, Turkey, and the U.S. intelligence agencies working hand in hand with these groups. But it would only stand to reason. because the U.S. intelligence agencies have done this over and over and over again, arming Wahhabist groups, arming the Mujahideen, arming groups that are counter to ISIS. Interestingly enough, and not from some kooky website like mine, blacklistednews.com, it's old General Wesley Clark. You gotta like General Clark because he always lets the cat out of the bag. You know, he told us about the invasion, the pre-prepared invasion of many of the Middle Eastern countries right after the fall of Saddam. He said that the U.S. had a plan to overthrow Assad, Syria, to overthrow Muammar Gaddafi in Libya, to overthrow the Yemenis government, to overthrow the Afghanistan government. And when it comes to letting the cat out of the bag, I don't know. I don't know if this guy's senile, but he goes on the circuit to put out the message, and I thought this was pretty riveting. General Wesley Clark says ISIS serves the interest of U.S. allies, Turkey, and Saudi Arabia. I know it's a shocker, but he's a U.S. general, and he was a presidential candidate, not Doug Owen. Quote, all along, there's always been the idea that Turkey was supporting ISIS in some way. We know they've funneled people going through Turkey to ISIS. Someone's buying that oil that ISIS is selling. It's got to go through somewhere. It looks to me like it's probably going through Turkey, but the Turks haven't acknowledged that. Well, this was prior to the presentation by the Russian government, the very compelling presentation, just as compelling, if not more compelling, than the presentation that NATO put together saying that the Buk missile launchers were supplied to the Russian separatists by the Russian government, and it was probably the Russians that shot down MH17. It looks very comparable to that. Same kind of thing. A bunch of blurry lines, a bunch of oil trucks and routes and places that, I'll be honest, are foreign to me. I could look at that and have no idea if it has any validity. But Wesley Clark, many others in the U.S. government now admitting, well, you know, the Turks are funneling that money to ISIS. It's laughable that you could put together some kind of plan to eradicate ISIS, but turn a blind eye to the people that support ISIS. It is insane that you would continue to operate on plans that completely negate the U.S.'s role in the creation of ISIS. And what will be the fruits of the next wave of terror? Who knows? I mean, we've seen what has come from, Mr. Carter's, what was he, Defense Secretary, Zbigniew Brzezinski, arming Al-Qaeda. We have 40 years of terror and a terror wave that has taken over the Middle East. Look at all the fruits from, I don't know, arming the Shah. That didn't work out very well, and that led to this radicalized Khomeini and other, not non-friendlies taking power in Iran. So, I guess the best way to look at this is that we are our own worst enemy. We incubate the terrorists that we have to fight. If that is not a conspiracy, these are the dumbest people that have elevated to these positions of power that wield billions of dollars to the defense industry to create more terror. So, conspiracy? Probably. Is a grand plot to create this force to ouster Assad? And the U.S. doesn't care because in the long game, they can, decimate all of the people that they're arming today. It's arming your enemy's enemy, and that is what the U.S. has done for many, many, many years. That's undebatable. So, yeah, there's no talk of that. General Wesley Clark's let the cat out of the bag, and if you're going to talk to the American people as Barack Obama did tonight, candidly, you have to address these huge issues with fighting the war on terror. Otherwise, it's just a lie, and that's kind of what we're cutting through here tonight. Terrorist with machete in London subway slashes man's throat, screaming, "This is for Syria." Blowback, probably. Less than a week after the San Bernardino shooting, the ghost of ISIS terrorism has finally landed in London. I love these headlines. Love the summation here. The ISIS ghost. Sounds very scary. Where moments ago, news broke that a man wielding a machete screamed, "This is for Syria," before slashing a person's throat at London's Leytonstone subway station and attacking up to 3 people. We also had a Jordanian man who got aboard a plane, a Lithuanian plane, and said that he wanted to join Allah and try to open up the cabin door in mid-flight. It's got to be pretty scary. So these kind of things are polarizing this issue and are being used to justify a further ground invasion and the occupation of Syria. Point blank. I don't know if these are all false flags. I don't know that to be the case. But regardless, when you have this amount of terror being created, you're going to find sympathizers. You're going to find people that are looking for a way to make their life have meaning. And some of them are going to become radicalized. Not even because they believe so much in the ideology. They're just not very smart people. I mean, most of the recent examples of terrorist plots that were thwarted, you have sub-80 IQ folks that are, on drugs, that are being manipulated by handlers in the FBI. That's pretty much the MO over and over again. So those people, you're going to find a few whack nuts out there that are going to attack a cop with a machete or shoot people for a variety of reasons. It's just like the Planned Parenthood shooting. They'd like to label this man a right-wing extremist or a right-wing terrorist, but it seemed to me that he was a mentally deranged man that did not like Planned Parenthood chopping up babies. He identified himself as a female Democratic voter, but what do you take from that? I mean, I would just say that the man's beyond insane. And so these, although appalling incidents, are very minimally impacting society. I mean, that many people, 14, 15, 30, 45, 100 people die every month in Chicago's gun violence. And we have lots of gun laws. We have extremely rigid and strict gun laws in those cities, in those states, like Illinois. It is very hard to own a firearm, and the amount of gun violence has not decreased. And even if everyone was armed, I don't know that it would either, because the people in those communities are killing each other regardless of their ability to defend themselves. Would everybody be armed, put a dent in that violence? Not when it's, gang and drug-related black-on-black crime. Probably not. So, I don't try to paint solutions, and I'm not tied to any of these agendas. I'm a gun owner. I've never shot anybody. I'm a responsible, peace-loving, God-fearing person that believes in the Second Amendment and my ability to protect myself, my family, and my property. I'm not attached to any of these agendas, because people are going. There's no way to eliminate people from wanting to harm one another. People have been murdering and killing for ever, and I don't care how many laws you put in place. People will find ways to harm one another if they're mentally ill or they really want to do it. So it's pretty straightforward. Most of the solutions have nothing to do with the problems. Sometimes it gets boring talking about these stories because it's the same thing. I mentioned last week, the cycle returns, and the wheel of misfortune and chaotic events leading to the evisceration of our freedoms in this country. It happens every week. Next week there'll be something else that will have everybody appalled and have the world mourning. All right. One of the things I thought was pretty interesting that's not getting much attention yet is this cop. You may have heard of him. He is guilty. He was found guilty of using the police database to stalk, kill, and eat women, but a judge had set him free. We're talking about Gilberto Valle, who he is, he was caught. He's been in and out of court since 2012 when it was discovered that he was stalking over 100 different women with every indicator pointing to the fact that he wanted to cook these ladies. Now, you want to talk about a lawyer, a good lawyer, getting you out of a bind. His lawyer was actually able to convince a judge that this is all just role play, that none of these things are really going to happen, that these were all just sexual deviant things that he was doing in his mind and never planned on carrying out. Let me tell you, that is a good lawyer. If there is such a thing. You know what Shakespeare said? He said, kill the lawyers first. And I like Shakespeare. All right, quick break, and we'll wrap it up on the other side. Still time for you, 800-313-9443. It's Blacklisted Radio. As the world turns, we can't make it up, folks. Can't make it up. Crazy stuff is happening around us, and there's people that take advantage of those stories. Out of the San Bernardino terrorist attack, we are seeing, more government solutions. That's my main point for tonight. Don't buy the hype. Don't buy into the fear. Do not allow yourself, and I hear this all the time. I know that most of you out there are somewhat enlightened. That's why you listen to this podcast, and or you're very bored. But I hear people that are really worried about these issues, and I think some of my friends, they're more right-leaning, are more, probably equally concerned about ISIS as they are about the federal government infringing on their rights. Lo and behold, even though the terror propaganda is so over the top, it is so in your face, you cannot escape it. People are still looking at the state as the number one threat to their freedoms. Appropriately so. So, I mentioned the statistic, which that may be somewhat dated. The 1 in 8 chance that you will be killed by a cop, or rather, not 1 in 8 chance. You're 8 times more likely, rather, to be killed by a police officer than you are a terrorist. Now, that's one of those statistics, and if you listen to this show, you know that I like to break down statistics, and people look at those and they hold them up high. This is how many people are employed, this percentage rate, this demographic, and it just does not do it justice. The chance that if you live in Chicago and being shot is very, very low, very low. Now, if you live in certain ghettos in Chicago, it's very, very high. So you could say, well, there's a better chance for a black man in Chicago to be killed by another person even a police officer, but the chances for them to be killed by another black person is much higher. But you could just compartmentalize those statistics and use them almost any which way you like, and so that's why I focus a lot on the propaganda. The Paris talks are going on for COP21. The pre-crime divisions of the Paris militarized police state, call it what you will. You have army on the streets. You have a state of emergency. Protesters are still protesting. Some of them getting glad-handed by the state, but the solutions are in, of course, this... I don't know. When you get this many pompous people together, the amount of carbon that is being emitted, who knows? Some people are saying this is the equivalent of 75 cars. I don't know if I don't know if you can really quantify how much of a carbon footprint that this meeting has. But I think that falls right back into this. I see that all the time. I saw a lot of alternative media outlets posting that. See, look at the carbon output of Barack Obama. But now you're feeding into this, well, that's why they shouldn't be having this meeting kind of logic that really just gives more weight to those people there. Anyway, we'll talk more about that in another week when we get all of the new revisions and possibly new laws, legal binding requirements for the United States government and other people taking money from the IMF. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I really do appreciate it. Go to blacklistedradio.com. Support this show. It's independent, and it's produced by you out there, the producers, the listeners of this broadcast exclusively. I'll be back next week for another live edition of Blacklisted Radio. Until then, my friends, take care. All right, kids, I'm out of here. Thanks so much for the show and listening to it.